Hey folks, FallRC here. Got a video for you today on off-road truck stroke buggy wheels and tyres. Kind of looking at 1/8 scale stuff here, but this could go on a 1/5 or 1/10 scale depending on what size you want and what adapters you've got, but I'll cover all that in a minute. Why am I talking about wheels and tyres? Well, because I've recently done some renovation work on my HPI Savage 25. This is a nitro powered monster truck. Still going strong after about 10 years. But I dug out some of my favourite tyres to go and run on a kind of a road and off-road area, and ouch, dun dun dun, these have aged, cracked and perished so badly you can actually see the splits are showing through to the foams. So I was thinking, okay, I need to get some more tyres. These are obviously glued on. I could boil them off, but that's going to kind of wreck the foams, or bake them, and okay, I'll get some more wheels. So I got to thinking, okay, I wonder if, because I recently built an Axial SCX-10 which has got these wheels and tyres. These are Beadlock rims, so you've got a central rim, the tyre stretches on, but there's no glue. You just have these metal rings that you screw on with a proper hex driver in, clamps the tyre on. I thought, I wonder if I can get that for my 1/8 scale Savage. That would be really cool. I don't have to do any gluing, and I can take them on and off and fiddle around with different foams and stuff like that. That would be great. So I had a look around, and yes, you can. I found these things. These are from Axial, the same company that makes these small ones. These are oversized beadlocks for monster truck wheels. This is part number AX8014, 8-hole beadlock wheel black, and these come with the rings, and they also come with adapters. That by default, these wheels, and here's one I've mounted, they are for a 17mm hex, but they do have adapters for 14mm, so it says. So I thought, okay, cool, let's go and get some more 40 series, and by the way, that's what these take. They take 40 series tyres, and when they're talking about 40 series, they're talking about the shape of the bead. Let's find one out of my pile of tyres. Here's a Big Joe 40 series, and when they're talking about the 40 series bead, it's this thing here. This is what clamps into the rim. Now you may see other 3.8 inch tyres that are advertised as Traxxas style bead. Traxxas style bead 3.8 inch tyres will not fit on these beadlock rims. You will find these advertised as 3.8 40 series. It means it's 3.8 size 40 series bead. Don't go for Traxxas bead if you want to do this beadlocking stuff. Anywho, that said, right, so you need to get a 40 series tyre. They seem to be drying up a bit. Proline are discontinuing a lot of their 40 series. Mashers are long since discontinued. The spiky mulchers, which I loved, they're discontinued. But you can still get trenchers. That's this tread pattern here. Really good for sort of multi-roll stuff. Excellent edges on here for, you know, if you've got a summit maybe for crawling around and so on. You can get Big Joes as well, which are huge. They're pretty much the same size as the mulchers, very slightly larger. Really big stable tyre. And you can also get what are called road rages, which is an on-road tread pattern tyre. So there's some stuff out there still from Proline. You can also get some 40 series tyres from RC 4-wheel drive. You go and have a look at their website. There's a link in the description. And then you want to get yourself some beadlock rims if you want to do this. I'm using the Axial ones. I believe another company called Maximizer RC. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the description. I think they make the right size beadlocks, and I have found another company called Motorworks RC who make beautiful things like this. This is for my SCX-10. It's a metal beadlock rim. They make something similar to that for 1/8 scale. Anywho, let's show you what we can do with the Axial rim. So here is an Axial oversized beadlock, and basically you want to get your tyre fitting on nicely. This is a foam off a trencher. Here's a foam off a Big Joe. Slightly different in size. Now what I did find fitting these is you need to be a bit careful, number one, about the foam. If you look on the rim here, you can see it's got quite a triangular cross section coming out. Now the standard foam is kind of square inside, and it won't sit nicely on that rim. So what you need to do you need to basically have a bit of a fiddle with the foams to get it fitting nicely, and you can just, with a bread knife, don't be afraid of this, just get your bread knife in and slice around. Watch out for your fingers. And I don't know if you can see on camera, but there's a slight chamfer here where I've taken off a bit of the foam just to make it fit nicely onto that rim. So you may need to fiddle with your foams a bit inside. You may also find you need to take some off the outside edge. Now these foams that came with the trencher tyres from Proline, they had probably another ½ inch of foam each side, and that was just making them way too wide, and they wouldn't fit nicely on the rims. So I basically just got this foam, laid it down like that, and just with a bread knife chopped it off. It's a bit rough, but you know what, inside here it doesn't notice. And then I've popped these on my Traxxas e-Revo Brushless running on 4S, which goes like stink and balloons tyres like crazy. 6S will be even worse, but with 4S on a Revo, these beads have not come out at all. But talking of the beads, here's the real kicker on this that's going to make it work for you or not. And I read on lots of forums people trying out these Axial Beadlock rims, but then just finding that the tyres were ripping out of the beads. Reason for that probably is, as it says on this document, and I'll put you a link in the description, this is from Proline, older stock of 40 series tyres and other manufacturers may need to be modified. If the inside edge of the bead is like a square section there, that's not going to fit nicely in the hole or in the trench on the rim. That trench is actually a triangular kind of section as it goes right to the bottom. So you need the tyre to have, okay, it's got a square bead at the outside, but the inside is kind of a smooth, faded into the rest of the tyre. Now, weirdly, the Big Joes that I've bought recently, and I'm shooting this video in May 2014, the inside of the bead on the Big Joes, actually let's turn it inside out. So here's the Big Joes bead, and you can see it goes completely smooth into the rest of the tyre, very much like they're showing here. The bit in the kind of reddy pink is what you have to cut off. If you've got a tyre like this, which is again another Proline 40 series, this is a trencher, the bead on this was actually a square cross section that I had to cut down with a scalpel all the way around, which it did freak me out having to do it, but you know, having read the Proline instructions, it wasn't so bad. I don't know if you can see on camera here the sort of cut lines of my scalpel. Basically what you want to do, apart from being extremely careful that you're not going to cut yourself, you want to scalpel with a very, very sharp blade. You're probably going to get through about 6 or 7 blades doing this because they blunt very quickly. But what I did, I rested it up on the edge of a vise and slightly stretched out the bead, and then basically just slowly chop, chop, chop round, and there's probably about 5mm across that I've sort of taken the width of the bead off to get that fading in like they show in the instructions. It was a long, painstaking thing to do. Kind of going around once is fine, then you notice your blade blunt, so pop a new blade in, and then and so on and so on. You've got to do that for 4 tyres, but hey ho. Having done that, these beads fit beautifully into the Beadlock rims, and then the rim clamps down nicely. There's no it kind of popping out as you're doing the screws up. It just sinks in nicely, and so I've run this, bashed around on my Revo, and it holds perfectly. I am running my Revo on 4S. 6S might be another story, but you know what, 6S wrecks pretty much everything. And then the last thing, and one of the reasons why I wanted to get the Beadlocks, is you can tune your tyres better, particularly by sticking some tape inside the tyre to stop it ballooning. You can use duct tape for this, or gaffer tape as sometimes people call it, but I do recommend Gorilla Tape. It is a little bit stronger and a little bit stickier than duct tape. For the trenches, one width of the tape's fine. You don't need to go around twice once you've got one lot of the tape on it strong enough. So I just go around once, and I've probably got about 3/4 of an inch overlap just to make sure it sticks down. Yes, that is slightly off balance now, but it's not really going to notice that much. That's for the trenches, so then you turn it back inside out and you're ready to go and mount it on your rim. For the Big Joes, I haven't done these ones yet. Here is a Big Joe turned inside out. Now, because these are so much wider, I'm actually going to have to put on 2 two widths of tape, and it's real simple to do if you had any space to do it. I'm running out of room in my studio because these tyres are so big. Right, all you need to do, some people like to stretch the tape out on, you know, on a desk and roll the tyre along. I don't find you need to do that. Most important really, you just need to make sure that the tyre itself is not dusty. If you've had these laying on the ground and they've picked up dust, maybe like all this dirt off my buggy, if your tyres are dusty it's not going to stick on very well. But essentially you just get your tape, and then you're going to line it up like so, and then just go around and stick it on. You know, this is not rocket science. It doesn't have to be 110% accurate. Obviously try and keep it as neat and as uniform as possible. You're going to get some creases, don't worry about it. Essentially you just want this webbing of the tape to be on the tyre, so the webbing inside the duct tape or the Gorilla tape will actually stop this ballooning effect at high RPM. There's my overlap just starting there, so I'm going to trim the tape here. That looks a bit rough. You just go around with your finger wherever it's sticking up, flatten it down. We can roll it around a bit later. That's one side done. So there we go, that's one taped up Big Joe. So at high RPM that won't balloon now. The ballooning, while it looks funny, because the profile of the tyre, how it ends up, you end up with like effectively a really slim bit of rubber touching the ground. You're not going to get so much traction. There we go, taped up. I know the bead's okay already, so I can turn this inside out again. Just smoothing it down. So that's taped up. Now I'm going to get the foam. Now this is the standard foam that came with the Proline Big Joe. Obviously if you want to tune your foams, you can get different foams from wherever and whichever ones you like. And the cool thing about having the Beadlocks is, okay, if I didn't like the foam setup I was using, I can just undo all the screws on the bead rings, take the tyre off, fiddle around, put it back on again. So there is the foam in place. Now that's feeling to me quite wide. You can see the way that the actual edge of the tyre is kind of mushing out here. It won't sit down inside here. Now that's going to be a real problem for getting the bead sitting nicely in here. What it should be like, you can see the way the bead, it sits circular and it sits into the tyre nicely compared to the Big Joe. This one I've already had on a Beadlock rim, easy to fit, doesn't rip off. This one would be a major pain. So that's why on this, where's my Sharpie? On this edge here, where this tyre is being pushed out, you can kind of mark. So that's what you need to be trimming off. Here's my mark. So essentially with a bread knife that I, funnily enough, don't have a bread knife in my garage. Let's get a scalpel to give you an idea. You just want to start slicing around. Obviously be real careful with a knife. It works so much better with a serrated blade. But you can see I'm starting to cut out a little chamfer here. You know, go easy, don't cut too much out on your first go. You can always cut some more off later. So we've taped our tyres, we have fiddled with our foams. I've spoken about the bead already fitting nicely. So now we can go ahead and fit them. But normally you'd be stretching your tyre over the edge of the rim and gluing it. You don't do that with the Beadlocks. The tyre stays outside the rim on both sides. And then we're going to get to putting the rings on, and you want to carry on watching because I have some important information on the rings. So here is the bead. So I'm just going to start to pop the bead of the tyre into the trench on the rim. Poke, poke, poke. Now if this is tricky to fit in, if the tyre keeps kind of pulling the bead out, you know that your foam is probably too fat. and you want to go and trim it down again. On this one, there you go, pushed it in, you can see that the bead is nicely in the trench. It's not pulling itself out. If I squeeze that, it's not popping out. So that's a good fitment of the foam. Then you get your beadlock ring, pop it on top, and you'll have lots and lots of these little screws with your wheel. So this is an Axial wheel. You can get them from some other companies, not loads, but there are some available, and I'll put some links in the description. Now, it's a good idea to start these by hand. You will find with these plastic rims, if you cross thread the screw into the last thread, because it's plastic, it'll just mush up and you'll end up stripping these out in no time. I'll just get 4 screws in here to show you. Now, the other thing when you're putting these on is you could use your hex driver, but man, you're going to get achy hands because there are so many screws to do. What is useful, if you've got a power drill, and if you've maybe got one of these little hex tools that has removable bits, you can pop your bit into your chuck. That's a lot quicker. Be really careful on the torque setting though. You want the torque setting on your hand power tool as low as possible. So that started to bring the ring down already. Obviously I've got a lot more screws to go. I won't do that on camera, but that is essentially how the tyre fits. I do need to mention something really important about the rings. On the back tyres, you shouldn't have any problems with the standard ring. But what you will notice is the ring does give you quite a lip here, and it reduces the internal diameter of the wheel effectively. On a back hub, it's probably fine. You probably won't have anything fouling. But if you put this on the front, if I get another ring, you're going to have to do this to it. Now, this is another ring that I've filed down a lot. If I line that up with the holes of the screws, you can see here that the ring on top, I've filed off a lot of the internal diameter to make it a larger diameter. The reason is, when that's on the wheel on your truck or buggy, as you turn, you will find that you may actually get fouling, and the ring may score, for example, on your rod ends, or going the other way depending on the suspension travel. And if you're steering a lot, you may actually hit your wishbone and score slightly. You can solve that by putting axle extenders or what they call wheel wideners on. So instead of having a normal hex adapter, you'd have one that's longer that brings the wheel out. That's one way of getting clearance, but it does affect the track of your car, which is going to affect handling and so on, and can put stress on the bearings. Let's have a quick summary. So if you do want to be able to put tyres on your truck or buggy that you can take on and off, you need bead locks. That's how you can get them to fit. You do need 40 series tyres though, which you can get from Proline or RC 4-wheel drive. Proline does seem to be discontinuing most of that though, so you might want to go buy some now. Oh, on that subject, if you want to buy some and store it, to avoid this kind of perishing happening, and this is just a good tip for any tyre storage anyway, what you can do, get yourself one of these. This is just a vacuum seal bag. Has this little valve you undo here. You put your vacuum cleaner on it and you suck all the air out, and it sucks down on your clothes, so storing clothes without taking up a lot of room. Well, you can put wheels and tyres in here as well. Why do you do that? Well, I've contacted Proline and said if I wanted to buy a load of wheels and tyres and store them, what's the best way for preserving the rubber? And they said airtight bags. So go have a look on eBay for vacuum seal bags and you can try that out. And the last thing to cover, obviously showing you how to fit the tyre on the rim. How do you fit the rim on your buggy? These are 17mm on the hexes, so if your truck or buggy's got a 17mm hex, then that's going to fit in there. Happy days, no problem. On my Savage, these are 14mm hexes, and I thought, oh hang on, I read on the packet, it says down here, fits 17mm hex hubs, including an adapter for standard 14mm application. So I just assumed that'd be fine. No, it's not. The standard adapter they give you comes on a plastic sprue. You get 4 of them, and well, they're plastic to start with, so that's not good. You know, the metal pins are just going to tear this plastic apart in no time. The real big problem is that the internal diameter of these is 6mm. There are actually 2 variants. There's like a 6 and a 6 point something. The shafts, the output shafts on my HPI Savage, because they're uprated, are 8mm diameter, so you have to get into fiddling around with different hex adapters, but I'll cover that in another video, because if your truck or buggy's already got 17mm hexes, then you've got no problems using these. So now I think we need to cut to an obligatory running video, and there you go. So any questions about all this, please pop them below in the comments. Have a look at the links in the description to the various manufacturers who do some of the wheels and so on. Back in the studio after the run in the park, and everything's all hanging together. Hopefully you would have seen from the shot in the park, but I'll just show you close up here. All the beads are holding together really well. There's just no pulling out at all, even after whacking them around. No ballooning. Savage ran fine, apart from its carburation is a bit out of whack at the moment. And the Revo back from the park as well was, as you saw, absolutely great for grip. Again, Big Joe's making it a little bit difficult in the corners sometimes, but the trenches are much better. The problem I have seen on the Revo though is, since I've got it back in, is down here on this tie link, if you can make out there's a bit of a silver scratch mark, and on the other side similarly there. Obviously on extreme steering we are getting a very slight touch still. I can't actually get it onto there now, I guess just about, if I twist it. I guess that's just the forces you're getting when these things are hacking around at speed. So clearance with the Beadlock rims on the Savage is absolutely fine. On the Revo, a bit of a minor issue that I might need to maybe space these out slightly. Anyway, overall you can see you can use some powerful trucks and buggies with the Beadlock solution. It works really well. Hope that was useful, and any questions or comments or whatever, please post them down below. Thanks for watching.